So you can't listen to an entire podcast in one go. That's all right. These short clips from the Harne podcast are here to assist your learning. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. So what are some of the key words which employers look on when they look at your resume for a credit analyst? And how do you network for them?
I think keywords in terms of the resume, actually, that's a very difficult question when I come to think of it, because I kind of had a lot of those elements in my resume. I just had to refine them in a lot of in a more structured way.
So maybe you
But
could expand on that. Like, what were the elements? Because you already had some experience in credit analysis. So what were the
yes,
things you had already? You could expand on that.
so I think for me, the some of the words that I would remember would be financial modeling, would be collaboration with different people, with risk managers, and credit analysis. That was something which I used to do, but I used to do it for financial institutions. So my sector was different at the time. Like right now, I cover natural resources, metals and mining portfolio, and back in India, I used to cover financial institutions. But the essence of credit analysis remains the same. It's just that we are covering a very different sector. So there were elements from that. Then I used to write rating reports. So writing comprehensive rating reports is my one of my day-to-day jobs in my current role. So that was something which I had. And then I think the other elements that added on to it were part of from my internship that I did, which was more of a like an internship with a rating with an angel investor group in Canada. So they were basically I was working with them for I started for 4 months and then kind of stretched it for an 8 month internship with them. That kind of added that Canadian experience on my resume. Even though I was working remotely with them for at least like for the entire 8 months, I never really met them in person. I started back in India, and then when I came to Canada, I kind of continued with them. But during that time, I was also involved in due diligence. I was involved in analyzing companies from which are literally very small companies. They don't even they're just they've just started revenue generation, and so those are very small entity companies and small size companies. So I worked with them. So that kind of added on to my resume. So it's a combination of the experience that I had prior to MBA and during my MBA that helped me. But I guess how to get a job, I think when they say that it's very important to do networking in Canada, that is essentially very true. um but there is, I think, in a way, you have to kind of keep doing it and learning through that process. I don't think when I started my networking back in my first year of MBA, which was back in India, and I used to have those calls late at night or at very abrupt hour of the day. But even like whenever I used to have those conversations, in the initial conversations, I really did not know what am I trying to achieve out of this networking. And everybody used to say you should network. But I never really got the hang of what networking should be at the time. But after doing those conversations multiple times with different set of people, what I essentially gained was the direction in terms of where I wanted myself to be. So I wanted to get a job with the bank because I knew that banking industry in general is one of the leading ones in Canada. I wanted to work for the top, like I wanted to work for RBC because of a project that I did with during my first year of MBA during with Schulich at the time with RBC. So I worked with them at the time, and that kind of taught me about their culture. So RBC became a very big priority for me at the time. And then I think when I spoke to different people, they used to tell me that, okay, in a risk management role, maybe you need to learn software programming languages like Python and R. I I've never been very fascinated by software languages, so I did not really try learning those. But I knew where what kind of transferable skills I had, so I kind of started targeting those roles. Then I kind of got to know that okay, if I have to look at more of a front facing role where where I have to speak with clients, I do not essentially have that experience at the moment. But once I'll be able to get a job in the bank, I would be able to pivot more easily because it adds that credibility to my own profile, my own my role, how what I'm working at, where I'm working at. It adds that value to my brand. So I think it's everything working together with that really led me to be able to get that opportunity, which kind of struck in the first attempt or first or second attempt.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we've all gone through that cycle of just because everyone is saying network, network, network. So you just request people for a coffee chat and you have no clue what you're going to talk about. So you've all made that mistake. But say, for example, someone reaches out to you now with all the knowledge you have on a coffee chat with a stranger who's looking for a referral. What are the things which you would look for in order to refer that candidate to a job designation in your organization?
I think I would look at some relevant experience, like some background with finance, because our role does require that level of understanding. Maybe some sort of uh, internship work in the domain. There would be some bit of element that would be required. But I think apart from that, I feel that the willingness to learn is always something that really matters to me. If you are willing to learn and you are able to put in that effort, you're able to show that yes, you are proactive and you are diligent in terms of what you want, what you are aiming to achieve, that really makes me want to look out for that person and makes me want to refer that person. I also feel that a lot of time when people reach out to me, that there is a they lack a little bit of conviction. I feel that is something which, if you're in your second year of MBA, that should essentially be kind of parked. You should have more conviction in terms of the roles that you're identifying or looking at, because by that time you are trying to get that next opportunity and next job like you just want that job offer letter. So I feel that they should have that conviction that yes, this is where I want to work in, this is the domain that I want to work in. And rather than being fascinated by all the domains of finance, because finance is huge. And yes, you need to identify which works best for you. But by the time you are applying to a role and you want that referral, you should have the conviction that yes, I want to be in credit rather than corporate banking or investment banking. After that, yes, you can always pivot. That is something even everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to see how their career path should look like, but not at the stage where where you want a referral. I honestly feel that when you're asking for a referral, you should be more like that make sure that yes, you are really looking for a credit role.
Yeah, I think those are wonderful points. You need to be self-aware as to where you want to go
Yeah.
and not be wishy-washy that, maybe I'll go into this or that. I'm not really sure what I want to go into right now, especially when you're approaching that final year and your year
Yeah.
is ending. And you need to show a willingness to learn. So which can be through maybe writing a sample report of what you do day to day, or some case competition in which you analyze some companies. So maybe you can show your willingness to learn through this. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, the first year is where you kind of talk to people just to get guidance. First year of MBA is essentially in what requires you to do that, because you should do that. First year of MBA is when you should speak to people from investment banking, corporate finance, treasury departments, audit, everything. Literally, you can reach out to people from all of these departments one at a time. But by the second year, by the final term, you should know that this is the role which really fascinates me, this is where I want to work. And then that professional can also guide you accordingly, because I would not be able to guide somebody all the different kinds of options open in front of them, and then they are asking me for a referral. So and then yes, like you said, willingness to learn through samples of what they have done, or I mean, I think that proactiveness, the fact that yes, you are willing to make that extra bit of effort, also kind of shows me that your attitude towards your work is professional. You are looking out to learn, you are out looking out to make a difference in terms of, as in a team setting. That also for me is very important in terms of your in terms of the way they are dealing with me when I'm having a coffee chat with them.
Yep, that totally makes sense. And now we've discussed networking and resume building. So now this is the time for interviews. So how are interviews for credit analyst positions conducted? What are the rounds? What type of questions are candidates asked? If you could throw some light on that.
So I think for me, I had in a sense two interviews. One was where actually the director reached out to me, and I was just having a phone conversation with her. But yes, so after that conversation, I had to write a case study for that recruitment process. So I basically was given like a little bit of information about a company, which obviously a virtual, obviously a fake scenario, and then I had to present there to them the rating that I would want to give that entity, what was my rationale, what was my thought process there, everything in a one pager. So that way, in a sense, I was assessed for my technical skills, to put it in the easiest way. And then after that, I had one round of interview where I spoke to like people from the team and the director and like the team leads. During the interview process, I would say it was a combination of behavioral questions and technical questions. Technical questions would involve how do you reconcile EBITDA? What kind of ratios do you look at when you're looking at a company for the credit risk profile? What is your structure when you're looking at a company? Like what I said earlier, that you look at business profile, you look at their financial profile, you look at the market, you look at their competition, you look at their liquidity. So it's all of that they're going to ask you. And then of course the technical elements, like what kind of ratios are important, then how do you arrive at those ratios, because EBITDA reconciliation is a very complex thing to do. If you're missing out, like you can make any, as an analyst I can make any adjustment to the EBITDA for arriving at my adjusted EBITDA and then arriving at my ratios. So those kind of so they want to know your thought process when you're doing that, when you're doing your analysis. And in terms of the behavioral questions, I think it's something which I would say is common across industries, where they want to assess your attitude, where they want to assess what kind of sets in my, like how you are able to show resilience, how you are able to work in a team setting. So they will throw questions at you and ask basis on a scenario, ask you what you did, how you managed that setting, and all of that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And how does one best prepare for the case interview? Like you said, you were presented with a hypothetical scenario. So how did you prepare for that? And what are your tips?
So I think at that time I actually looked at the S&P methodology, because S&P methodology is pretty very comprehensive, yet very structured. So that's why I followed their methodology to build my own one pager. So, and I think that's where I draw that elements of business, financial operations, liquidity, solvency, all of that, and then basically assess the company on all these factors, do my ratio calculations, and then present it in a more in a structured format. Of course there will be times you will not be able to get everything right. Maybe your analysis may not have been as accurate as you would have thought it to be, but I think the idea behind is what you are thinking and how you are thinking, that whole that analysis, like how you are assessing that company. And then I think I also got a lot of guidance from the person who I had actually spoken to first for the first time before I applied to this role, and so he really guided me through his own recruitment. So that's why this is where I say that networking really comes handy. It was it was that one coffee chat after those 50 coffee chats that really like took me to that role, and I was able to speak to somebody who was able to guide me in a way that helped me speak, like that kind of made those connections to get that final opportunity. That's why they say that right place at the right time actually kind of works. It works in mysterious ways,
Yeah.
but it also kind of it came because I spoke to so many people, and eventually I spoke to this one person who I thought that yes, he might be able to help. So whenever people apply to any roles, whenever you're looking out to get into particular team, it's you should always try to speak to somebody who is on the team, that
Okay.
very role or similar role, but he is or who he or she who is on the role really will be able to up your game in terms of just applying through a resume or a cover letter, because because we all know that there are hundreds of applicants out there. What really would make a difference is that you're able to prove to somebody that yes, I know this job because I because when I spoke to that other person, he told me that this is what you do, and that's what fascinates me, and that's what I'm interested to do. So that sometimes really helps people. I mean, even if I'm like sometimes people also ask for reference in a very different domain of RBC. Yes, I'm working for a bank, but that would not really uplift your case when you're applying for a different domain altogether, probably like operations or marketing, because I don't have any credibility in that role. So I would not actually be able to have, like, even if I give you the referral, it would not help your case any which way. It would just be like the same as without my referral. That's what I would really feel. And that's why when you are speaking to somebody who is on the team, it builds your case. Maybe not in the first go, but in the second go, yes, they because they remembered people who have been referred to by somebody on the team, and they kind of go back to you if there is an opportunity. So it's just that sometimes it's a patience time test involved, but it kind of works out in the end.
Yeah, I think you made a very important point over there with the domain and the field in which you are working. So, like as you rightly said, you are working in credit analysis. So, if you refer someone in the venture capital space at RBC, it would not make much of a difference. So, usually people think of, yeah, I have a contact at such and such organization, so I can get a referral, but that's not enough. Is that referral actually in the domain in which you are interested? So that
Yes.
makes a lot of difference. And I think the only way to find out is to reach out to as many people as possible, because it's not mentioned in people's LinkedIn description that which team they are a part of. So you need to
Yes.
reach out more and more people, and just hope that somebody is on the team which is hiring.
Yes, yes. I mean, like what I did, I remember was I was following this role, which I'm working in right now for a while, and then I saw that there were multiple postings of this role, so I knew that the team was expanding. I knew that this team is growing and there would be opportunities coming up because there was a hiring in one like in May, and then again in June. Like so, the multiple hirings kind of give you the direction that yes, this team is hiring. Maybe it would be advisable to speak to somebody who is on the team, and when you actually speak to somebody, then they will direct you to somebody else, and that's what actually happened with me. Like I was able to speak to a very senior person of the team who was leading the team at the time, and my resume went to her, and that really uplifted my case in the whole scenario, and eventually I had the relevant experience that helped me build my case. I was able to leverage that, but that does not mean that yes, so that's why one phone conversation, one coffee chat takes you to the right people and eventually gets you to the opportunity that you would want.
Yeah, that's very well said. And like you said earlier, that it's practice. When you're preparing for the case interview, it's practice and you have to do it. There's no skipping that. But are there any resources? Like I know people in consulting have different books or blogs where they go and, they actually, it is, they are told how to break down a case and how to think about it. So for your role, are there any resources like that which exist or no?
I mean, it's very hard to pinpoint one because sometimes it's a combination of different things that kind of help you out. Like I remember sometimes I used to just go back to my CFA books to go through this the whole essence of credit analysis. Sometimes I used to go through those financial standards. What is the current standard? So I particularly don't look at, like, I would not be able to give a very like a constructive, like, our feedback on terms of what resources there are. But combination of CFA, combination of existing methodologies of credit analysis, um, having the knowledge of ratio calculations, fundamentals. I think it kind of goes down to the fundamentals, because if you know the fundamentals of how a company is to be looked at, that in itself is good enough, and then you can always learn things on the job. So that's why there is never a sector specific focus when it comes to credit. In the equity always has a lot more sector specific focus there, because you kind of build through your domain in a particular sector. You have to, because you have to keep doing projections, you need to know what happens in that industry in and out. And that's why that I have seen at least this trend that a lot of people stick with the same sector domain in equity rather than in press credit, because I've kind of switched credit from financial institutions to natural resources and retail. Right now, I cover both natural resources, that's metals and mining, and retail, and just general consumer products. So that transition is possible with credit analysis.
If you like that short clip, I'm sure you'll like the entire episode. The link to the episode is in the description section. Go check it out.